10 years after Thrylaxlanthus was defeated, what was then called the Black Scourge slowly began to overtake small pieces of the lakelands. The darkness grew over the years and slowly consumed the lakelands almost entirely. That was when King Roderick Emberhearth began to call his banners and amass one of the largest armies that the Sindaran Empire had ever seen. The king had even called on mercenaries from Shingdu kingdoms, the Pa'alu'u Islands, and even some of the Xochipilli tribesmen from Sarthos. It was as if all of the civilized races of Aerdtha converged on Lortania Castle simultaneously. All believed that victory was imminent. There was not a doubt among them. Prince Jacin's chest couldn't have been more puffed out as he led the military procession through his family's self-named city of Emberhearth. Little did he know what was in store for him, nor did the poor souls that followed him into certain doom. Many of the knighted gentry, lower lords, and more than a few of the Watervines, Strongs, and Greyhawks died, not to mention the other great lords of Cindara. Even King Emberhearth's own son, Jacin, gave his life trying to retake Lortania Castle. It was a bloody affair, the battle for the Lakelands. Most every house in the Sindaran Empire was represented. Why wouldn't they be? It was thought by the astronomers and sages retained by many of the aristocracy that this black scourge was no more than a force of creatures from the underworld. The small folk had let their imaginations get away with them, running in fear as fear ran their minds to untrue thoughts. Or so much of the nobility thought. It was 3 horrendous days of ceaseless bloody carnage. The great lords with their vassals, there at the king's heed, were led by the king's eldest son, a man knighted for his own deeds rather than his name. Prince Jacin was a warrior and victor of many battles in his own right, yet all of this was for naught. All of their siege weapons, mages, and magical armor could do nothing against the wretched beasts and foul creatures that came from the darkness to water the stones of Lortania Castle with their blood. The battle for the Lakelands was a stain on the realm as far as the remaining great lords were concerned. It was proof that King Roderick Emberhearth and his line had declined to the point of being ineffectual. Had the king not the best scouts that gold could train? Had he not the finest of paid mercenaries, the best knights, and the strongest pikemen? How had he allowed this scourge, this shadow upon the land, to overcome even one of his vassals? If he was truly chosen to lead, how had he not known nor been able to see the power of these dark foes? This was the thinking that started the wars for the crown, that persist to this day. What had started as a simple rebellion has grown into a war for the southernmost part of the continent. The seat of House Watervine is gone, and the 2 sisters of Lord Rylan Watervine are married to Lord Aaron Nightwood of Farmingpool and Lord Chervon Strong. Although Lord Chervon had passed at this point, his son, Lord Cale, still has strong ties to the Watervines. Lord Elfred Greyhawk joined quite quickly in the hopes of keeping his sister, Lady Deidre, safe as her son, Lord Cale Strong, was not yet proven in battle. The strongest houses of the north gathered and began their march south, cutting a swath through King Emberhearth's loyalists. The rebels would suffer none to back the crown, win or lose. House Carrigant was the first to meet its end. Every member of the family was burned in Castle Whitespring, along with the bannermen who had chosen to stay loyal to them and joined them in the confines of the castle. Little was it known to the Emberhearth loyalists that the northern rebels would not wait out a siege. They had not the time. The rebels used flaming pots of oil hurled with catapults, while the many mages that the great lords employed unleashed fireballs and meteor swarms. All that remains of Castle Whitespring is the broken and blackened debris among the barren soil. Even the spring for which the castle was named is gone and perhaps buried, never to be seen again. That was the only decisive battle in the 5-years-long war. By that point, many of the major houses had been completely wiped out, and those that remained wanted peace. During the decades since, the great houses have battled and vied for power over Cindara. The empire that once was seems to be lost. Now Cindara is broken into 7 independent kingdoms, all occasionally going to war with each other when one house or another thinks they've amassed enough power to take the other kingdoms. Without any real force to unite behind, the attempts to reunify the empire inevitably fail. During the fall of the Cindarian Empire, the city-states of the north formed an alliance, seeing the disarray in the south. The cities of Glenheddich, Huntersport, and Sarkath grew to be forces that are strong alone, but nearly indomitable when united in cause. They've chosen not to take part in the wars for the crown, and have only needed to band together once in order to defend themselves from an attacking force from the south. The low-born lord, they called him, and the formidable forces he was able to raise were vanquished over the course of their month-long campaign. The low-born lord was given to the wood elves of Sarkath to be dealt with. No one outside of the city knows what was done with or to him. With some of the heroes returning to the once small hamlet of Glenheddich, Tormund, Quarian, and Crom have made it home base. Not only did their notoriety and the fact that they resided in the town draw people, their collective financial acumen helped the hamlet they loved become a thriving city. Using the narrow water river that runs to the southeast, as well as the resources from the narrow water forest, the long-held alliance with the Camdrin clan of mountain dwarves in the White North has established Glenhadoc's leadership and guided this hamlet into becoming what the people now call the City of Rings. It is called so due to the concentric walls that surround the city started by the heroes, when a confederation of savage tribes chose Glenheddich as the focus of an attack that would become an invasion of the civilized races. That attack was repelled with extreme prejudice by the returning heroes. From this day forward, they would be known as the Hioris of Glenheddich. Since then, as the city grew, they added newer walls and rebuilt the old walls, making improvements as they went. The central wall, once made of wood from the surrounding forest, had been replaced with limestone, then granite, and now it is made of white marble adorned with silver embellishments and carved with depictions of feats of bravery and scenes of war. This central wall surrounds what it called the Old Town by most of the locals. This is where the Tower to the Gods stands. It is also home to many of the more prestigious businesses as well as the courts, city officials, and many of the smaller houses of wealth. As the walls move out from the center, they become less formidable and less adorned. Many of the small folk of the outer walls and beyond have issue with the city. They feel that there is more protection for the clergy and bureaucracy above all, and then the merchants next, while leaving the poor with weaker walls more likely to be overtaken. This has started some unrest in the outer rings. The high priest of the Tower of the Gods, Tormund, has recently taken up their cause. This has brought friction between him and Quarian Nightbreeze, the recently elected mayor and celebrated businessman. The only thing keeping the peace is the long-standing relationship between Tormund and Quarian. This is a delicate balance that many in the Free City can see, and some seek to upset that balance. To the north and east of Glenheddich, on the east coast north of the Neck, lies Huntersport. It is the largest commercial trading hub in all of Cindara. Once a hamlet known for furs, exotic meats, and rare ores dug from under the mountains in the Grey Wastes, it has become the largest port in nearly all of Aerdtha. Spices, silks, rare and precious metals and ores of all kinds are found here. Exotic animals, spell components, ancient and rare texts, and curious foreigners come and go through Huntersport every day. Due to all of the port's traffic and the resulting taxes, the city has grown prosperous. Huntersport is the first democracy set up in all of Cindara. As a result of that, the foreign influences and cultures make many things legal within its walls that are not legal in the other free cities of the Northern Alliance. This isn't because the city turns a blind eye, quite the opposite. The city taxes everything. Part of this is due to the fact that they have a rather large clan of kobolds under the city to maintain the sewage structure and water system that runs through every home that can afford it in Huntersport. The other reason the city taxes nearly every exchange so heavily is to maintain the roads and schooling system, as well as to maintain upkeep on the walls and pay those whom protect those walls. However, Huntersport is by no means a utopia. The underworld operates differently in Huntersport. In a way, they operate freely in the shadows. The Council of Huntersport taxes the Guild of Thievery based on what they assume was stolen. This is calculated based on houses that were burgled and other similar reports. The Guild of Thievery holds a very tight grasp on their territory. Because of this arrangement, the city will immediately arrest and punish any pickpocket, coin snatcher, or sneak thief within its walls, and remove one of their hands if they haven't the paperwork from the guild that permits their activities. The city also taxes the plethora of brothels, dwarven coffee houses, and the elven mushroom purveyors within its walls. Much of this money goes towards funding one of the most formidable ranks of city guards that you will see in the Northern Alliance. The once small port has grown to encircle the lowlands that immediately surround it. A large and wide cobblestone road winds up from the city and to the south towards the Howling Cliffs, where many on the wealthy live. The Street of Sterlings, as the thoroughfare is named, is patrolled by members of the City Watch, as well as private mercenaries paid by the wealthy houses there. The commoners call it the Golden Cliffs, but it is known to its residents as the Merchants' Manors. It is enclosed within walls of white limestone reinforced with cold rolled steel that stand 30 feet tall. The wall has but one entrance and exit to its north connecting to the Street of Sterlings. This gate is both beautiful, formidable, and enormous. This elaborate defense against the common people, and even those of means who would ramble upon the beautiful esplanades, are kept from doing so. This has created a division of classes that has some of the common folk ready to upset the status quo. The elven stronghold of Sarkath, lost in the heart of the narrow water forest, is only accessible via certain secret paths known only to those indoctrinated into the elven ways of Sarkath. The city itself was built by the High Elves during the Kinslayer Wars to keep their kind hidden within a forest ancient and untraveled by the civilized races. Those ancient rites that helped keep Sarkath safe during the Kinslayer Wars are also able to keep it hidden from the eyes of outsiders. One must know the correct spaces in which to walk and the specific sigils to make in the proper areas to unveil the city. Although well secluded and shrouded in secrecy, Sarkath faces another kind of danger. In recent times, unseen forces from within Sarkath have begun to disrupt the peace. It began, rather innocuously, as the occasional glitch in the glamour protecting the city would allow the stray woodland creature into the city. As time progressed, so did the small but nefarious-seeming issues with the city. It primarily affects the city's glamour, once even allowing a rabid owlbear to enter the city and rampage until the beast was vanquished by the guard. But rarely, the veil between the Shadowfell and the material plane is nearly dematerialized, allowing a malformed and twisted creature from the realm of gray and shadow to infiltrate the city. Of late, these incursions from the Shadowfell as well as the glitching glamours of the city have started coming more often and lasting for longer periods of time. The Council of Elders has been investigating these occurrences, and for the most part they've been mystified as to the source of the anti-magic towards the glamours and the thinning of the veil between worlds. The Council has discovered that the source of these magics is within the walls of the city itself, but by whom and for what purposes they have yet to expose. All of these recent happenings have had a massive effect on Sarkath and the Council of Elders. More patrols are about in Narrowwater Forest than have ever been. The gates of the city are not as inviting as they had been previously. The council members keep to their private chambers and no longer share the discourse with the people. Rumors abound that the council is considering leaving the Northern Alliance in order to maintain their autonomy. Other rumors maintain that the council may even elect an overseer to run Sarkath in their stead. With the council acting reclusive and the people being uninformed of the goings-on in council chambers, tensions are high in Sarkath and a rebellion seems to be bubbling up.